Hello, my name is Lucas. This is a bit of lit, and I am here to talk about Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry, which is a really great novel that I read. I started reading it in June for June on the Range, but much like the journey for Augustus McCrae and Woodrow Call and their crew, the Hat Creek crew, it took me a long time. So June on the Range has been extended to July on the Range. And I think that's okay, because we have a character named July. Anyway, this novel is just amazing. It's really a wonderful Western. And it does so much. It is about two men in particular and their journey to go from Texas to Montana to start a cattle ranch and make some serious money that way and prove themselves to themselves. It is Woodrow Call's off-the-cuff decision to do this, largely because he's the kind of man who expects a lot from those around him and his subordinates, and himself as well. Although he is an abysmal failure of a father. That's his moral weakness. Because I guess it makes him think of the one time he was weak, and not a strong, bullheaded, stubborn mule that he is. Just like his friend Augustus McCrae, although he's a very different kind of figure, and he likes to mosey around and sort of philosophize about stuff. It does seem that Call feels a bit like, he's in his twilight years and he's worried about what use he is in this world, and that is sort of, I think, what motivates him to decide to go. And he convinces Gus and then a lot of the people there, Josh Dietz, their long, well-trusted partner, who is a black man, which is sort of rare in a Western, particularly because he is the most competent, moral, perhaps, character in the whole book. He's the best tracker. He's the best cowboy in general. And he's a really great portrayal. And they completely respect him for his talents, and they stick up for him when other people make his race an issue, and that's really amazing to see. I haven't seen that kind of thing in a Western ever. So that's pretty shocking. There are other shocking things, perhaps subversive things, I should say. There are a couple female characters in the book, but there are two prominent women. There is Lorena, who is a prostitute. I know what you're thinking, but I promise you, she has a tremendous amount of willpower, and she's able to make decisions for herself and think for herself within the sort of social framework that she's in the 1870s in America. Not a lot of choices, but what she does have control of, she's been abused by men before the book, during the book, hopefully not after the book, but she has a lot of self determination in a way. She knows what she wants, and she sort of fights for it, and she's a great character. Then there's Clara, who is Gus's long lost love, who is sassy and competent and really funny, and tells it like it is, man. My favorite character in the book is it might be one of the women, or maybe Josh Dietz. I think my favorite is Josh Dietz. I wish there was more of him. Definitely more of him. It's no. This is a very dangerous mission. I'll say that. And there's lots of twists and turns from Texas to Montana. Lots of different characters. There's some plot contrivances for how they meet up. Jake Spoon is the character who motivates Call and Gus to go to Montana. He's on the run from Arkansas because he he shot his gun and accidentally killed July Johnson, the sheriff's brother. And July Johnson, not being much of a sheriff himself, by his own admission, wasn't really going to do anything, but if I remember right, it was his stepsister that forced him to go on the chase. And him and his deputy, Roscoe, I forgot his last name, Roscoe, go out, and then there's a whole situation with this woman named Elmira, maybe the weakest presentation of a woman here, angry wife. But yeah, there's all kinds of little things happening here and there, and they all these characters come into contact with each other at different points in time, and lots of there's episodes of adventure, episodes of danger, episodes of betrayal, episodes of fear and anxiety and chase and facing natural disasters and all different kinds of things. Lots of things are constantly happening to keep things moving. There's a point when you start seeing Clara, not just hearing about her from Gus. It's well before you actually have anybody introduced to her or see her. She's way up in Nebraska, and living with the man that she married. And it feels kind of jarring in a way, but it works really well because by the time our main characters get to her, we know her really well. We know her personality. We know what motivates her. We know what hurts her and what keeps her going, because she's lost a lot of children and she's had a lot of death in her life. But still, she keeps ticking because she's really strong. And yeah, I think probably the women are the most enjoyable characters. Like all the men, Josh and Newt, who is the bastard child of Carl with another prostitute. Was her name Maggie, I think? That Carl regrets in a moment of weakness, so he doesn't acknowledge his son, except in a symbolic way. Anyway, what was this saying? Lots of characters, lots of women. The one thing is maybe the way that the natives are shown, because they are Texas Rangers. In a way, it's nice to see, Augustus and Woodrow, Carl and Gus, certainly are a product of their time. The way they think about the natives makes sense for a Texas Ranger in the 1870s. They are brutal to them. They never once they see the natives as brutal. They never once think about why. They just have a certain mindset, which is pretty grotesque for the modern day, but It fits really well for who they were, who they would have been, if they were real people. But there is a little bit of a subversion here. We do have a native character, Blue Duck, and we do see lots of natives who get scattered and are lost and scared and fighting to survive and this kind of thing. So we do see some things going on to show, like, this is not great what they're doing. It's not cool. It's not good. But Gus, on their way to Montana, they're trying to go there because just on a whim, which I suppose is sort of the American myth, taking down the American myth of, like, the Western frontier, going for, I don't know, manifest destiny and I don't know, God gave us this land or whatever. They're just going because they're old and bored and want something to do. And, they have a perfectly comfortable life. Lonesome dove, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just dull, I guess. And, I suppose that's sort of taking that down. And the moments we see the native population scattered and damaged and hurt, those parts. Gus also, they're going up to Montana because it's sort of the last place that hasn't really been fully colonized, because they're always talking about how they cleared out the natives. Yeah, that is problematic, but it makes sense, right? But we do have these sort of subversive kind of things where Gus, he sees every so often, he's got really great eyesight, of course, they make a point of this. He sees, like, elements of white settler colonialism and civilization, and starts to wonder, like, does this make it better? No. But I maybe it's not enough to really say that it's really trying to say something. I get that. But I think, it's really kind of cool to see that, and I picked up on it. It took me a little while to finally see it. I was thinking, like, okay, they're rough and tough. The way they talk about the natives and clearing them out, that makes sense for who they are. But, like, man, I thought this was, I'm amazed that this has stood the test of time with the way they talk about this. But then finally I started to see, okay, there's enough there to make a case that it's trying to subvert that idea. And subvert the idea of the American myth of the American Western frontier. I don't know if there's anything else I want to say. It's a really amazing novel. There's all different kinds of wonderful things, really brilliant characters, really well paced, although some strange plot contrivances here and there. Also, something interesting, there's this character Blue Duck who is a native, and he is scary. He is terrifying, and he, there's a point, Lorena has joined Jake Spoon. She fell for him, and he was joining Call and McMurtry for a while, but then he got tired of the way his life was going and wanted to go gamble. Fell into some bad luck of his own, into the wrong crowd, because he's kind of a sad, lowly, pathetic kind of guy. Nothing's ever his fault. And certainly the thing that has thrust him into this whole situation and the Hack Creek crew was an accident. He shot his gun off and accidentally killed somebody. But every character is just so rich in this book. I mean, you really feel them. Maybe you don't really like any of them. I don't really like Call or Gus even, but I do enjoy reading about them. I lost my point that I wanted to make. Oh, yeah, Blue Duck. Eventually, Lorena gets trapped because she gets abandoned, essentially. Gus goes out to find her. And this is sort of when July and Roscoe and some kids come into the fray. And we see just how brutal Blue Duck is. And we see what has happened to Lorena, and it's really, really tragic. I mean, it's really horrific. A lot of, some of these kinds of themes, the way it's written about is hinting at, it's not always explicit, even in the more consensual acts. There are euphemisms used, but anyway, this leads to Gus saves her, and this leads her to become really attached to Gus because she thinks no other man can treat her well, which really gives her character a lot of depth and a motivation to change and this kind of thing. But there is the character of Blue Duck, and he's a scary guy. And Gus wants to get revenge. Call even wants to get revenge. He had been terrorizing them when they were Texas Rangers, but they never caught him. They never even saw him, as we find out by the end of the book. Which, that is probably the only part I don't really like. There's a part tacked on. There's no closure to this desire for revenge, to get back against Blue Duck for what he's done, which is like, this is a Western, come on. But it works so well because you're so invested in their journey to Montana that you sort of feel like, oh, I want to see that, but I want to, let's keep going. And you're still wondering what happened to Blue Duck. Where is he? Who's he terrorizing? Or maybe you're not. And then, by the end, there is a conclusion, some kind of closure, and it feels really tacked on. I don't really like that part because it just feels weird. It's like the most contrived part. Perfectly timed for Call to see this. Okay. I guess. I mean, it's a small world, but anyway, Lonesome Dove, amazing novel. A few flaws, maybe not enough being said for certain representation. I get that, but it's just like, some of its themes, particularly with the frontier myth making, that kind of thing. It's just like incredible. Thank you. Goodbye.